everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Lay It Down podcast. I'm your host, Susannah.
And I'm your host, Nate.
And we're here.
Yes, we are.
It is the end of another week, and we made it.
We did, yep.
How are you today?
Tired.
Tired?
Yeah.
It's 10:03 in the morning on Thursday.
Yeah.
So we are cutting it close.
Cutting it close.
I'm going to be editing the rest of the day.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kept pushing it back and pushing it back.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
That is a lie.
'Tis not a lie.
That is a lie from the enemy.
No.
That is blasphemous.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't push it back at all.
We were supposed to do it Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then you chose not to.
That's not... Okay, anyway, we're not going to argue on the podcast because that's not what the podcast is about. We're not here to bicker. We're here to spread the word.
We're a married couple. There's eventually going to be some bickering for sure.
I feel like there's bickering every episode.
Probably.
You know what? We don't hide anything back from you guys.
It's just a married couple thing.
A married couple, like, we're not here to sugarcoat marriage or anything like that. Like, we bicker all the time, but like sometimes it's playful bickering,
Yeah.
and then other
Like
times
now.
it's like bickering.
Yeah.
Like we're mad at each other bickering.
So I guess I'll just introduce kind of what we're going to be talking about today. If you haven't guessed by the title and when you clicked on it, we're going to be talking about when Jesus talked about having faith like a mustard seed, or faith the size of a mustard seed, or however he phrased it.
Yeah, I'll read to you guys the verses or the passage that, when Jesus says this. It's Matthew 17 verses 14 to 20. And it says, "At the foot of the mountain, a large crowd was waiting for them. A man came and knelt before Jesus and said, 'Lord, have mercy on my son. He has seizures and suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him.' Jesus says, 'You faithless and corrupt people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me.' Then Jesus rebuked the demon in the boy, and it left him. From that moment, the boy was well. Afterward, the disciples asked Jesus privately, 'Why couldn't we cast out that demon?' 'You don't have enough faith,' Jesus told them. 'I tell you the truth. If you had faith even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would move. Nothing would be impossible.'"
Yeah, this was kind of something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, and I also had a conversation with a friend about this as well. And essentially my thought process in the whole thing was, Jesus said, if you could have faith as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, like, faith that small, like the mustard seed is so tiny, but if we had even just that amount of faith, we could tell a mountain to move, and it would move. I think he said it that small because we can't even muster up enough faith for that size of faith a majority of the time. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the time it's hard for us to even have enough faith to fill a mustard seed.
But sometimes I feel like I do have big faith.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like I do have big faith, but even if I told a mountain to move, I actually thought about this the other day. I was like, we don't have any mountains around us, but I could go to the tree and be like, tree, move from here to there. And it probably wouldn't move.
No.
But so then my faith must be very small, even smaller than a mustard seed then. Even though I feel like,
yeah,
it is, I do have big faith, but.
Mm-hmm. But even then, like, if he says that we could have that amount of faith would move mountains, I'm just saying, like, that's the smallest thing that he could probably think of at the time to say, like, even if you had just like the tiniest little amount of faith like this,
mm-hmm.
and yet they couldn't do what he had sent them to do because they didn't have enough faith.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's us a majority of the time. We can't muster up that amount of faith.
Why do you think that is?
Like, I'm glad he didn't say, if you had faith the size of a grapefruit, because like
that is huge.
That's like, we can't even get enough faith from like the size of a mustard seed. Like, can't even imagine we would be hopeless.
Yeah, we would be hopeless.
But yeah, like, it's an interesting analogy that he put forth there. Just like to have that small amount of faith to do great things. And I think that's also the core message, is that faith is powerful. Mm-hmm. Like, faith in Christ and faith in God is powerful, and even the smallest amount of faith can move mountains, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. I have this like little thing on my phone. It's like a widget. and I took a photo and I put it on my phone. And so every time I open up my phone, it's on my home screen. And it says, faith to me is knowing in the depths of my soul that God can accomplish anything. And at the same time, at knowing in any outcome, I still trust his ways entirely and will be content in him alone.
Mm-hmm.
So faith is having the faith that as small as mustard seed, at least.
Yeah.
But then also knowing in the depths of your soul that God can literally accomplish anything. Like if you go to a tree and tell it to move and you have full faith that God will do it because of how much you believe in him, it will move.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. See, I'm like still skeptical. I'm like, cause like trees are such sturdy things too, unless like lightning hits them or an axe, but like the roots go so deep.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have a tree move would take a lot of effort. And
yeah, I think faith is knowing that God can, but also recognizing that he won't always.
mm-hmm.
Because it has to align with his will as well.
Do you find
if we're
that
just trying to move mountains to show off, like there's
just moving them out here and there and there?
I don't think that's going to be
for no specific purpose.
In his will, like, yeah, right? So,
yeah.
But I think for things of importance, like for the salvation of someone who's lost, like a family member or friend or something like that, or health concerns of a family member, God hears those prayers and he can bring about a miracle like moving a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
But he won't always.
Yeah. And it's more of like a theoretical mountain rather than an actual mountain.
Yeah.
Because we face a lot of mountains in our own lives and God will remove them, but sometimes he doesn't. And it's because he wants us to go through those things for us to be who we are called to be. So like when we pray, sometimes a lot of us tend to do this one thing. And it's like, God, please give this to me if it's in your will. But if it's not, that's okay too. Like you're acknowledging that like you don't have that big faith that God can do what you ask him to do.
Mm-hmm.
But like I understand, like it's a contradicting thing, or like I don't know the right word, but like you want to pray for things that are in God's will, but then when you pray that way, you're also acknowledging that it might not be in God's will, and then you're telling him that's okay. So it's like you have a little bit of doubt to me, like a little bit of doubt. But I'm so guilty of praying that way because I don't, like I'm, as a people pleaser, I'm like, God, like if it's in your will, yes, but if it's not, that's okay. I'll be fine.
Yeah. When it comes to things, like I said, being in God's will, like sometimes the mountains in our lives might not be moved, and it might be to showcase his glory. Like Paul and the thorn in his side, and Jesus' response to him asking for it to be removed was, my grace is sufficient for you. So the thorn was never removed, but God's grace was sufficient for him.
I feel for Paul. Is it
I don't
Peter
know.
or Paul that you said?
Paul, I think.
Paul.
Yeah. I don't think it was, I mean, he doesn't really state whether it was a literal thorn in the side or like some sort of affliction that was like a thorn in the side to him.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if there's like a thorn literally hurting Paul's body, I don't think Jesus would have just like left it.
I think most scholars agree, at least I think anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they agree that it was more of like a metaphor for some other affliction that was like a thorn in the side to Paul, whatever it may be.
Yeah, okay. That makes more sense because Jesus was like healing people.
Yeah.
And I feel like if one of his followers was in pain or had some sort of physical affliction to him, then he would have, helped him.
Yeah.
But there was like, I don't know if this is in the Bible, but the guy in The Chosen who
That's
limps.
what I was thinking of.
Yeah, he limps and he goes to Jesus after seeing all of these people be healed. Speaking of The Chosen, it's on today.
Oh, true. Yeah. We gotta
so I'll have to watch that. But anyway, so he sees all these people be healed around him through Jesus's miracles and everything. And then he goes to Jesus privately and is like, Lord, heal me, basically. Like, heal me too.
Like, why haven't you healed me yet?
Yeah, he asked that question. He's like, why haven't you healed me yet?
Yeah.
And I feel like so many of us who are going through physical afflictions or even like anything like that, sickness, any health detriment.
Yeah.
We're not healed. We ask God, why aren't we healed yet? But his response to him made my outlook on that change because Jesus told him basically how much greater, like, do you remember what he said? I have it in my brain, but the words aren't working.
Yeah, I remember kind of I remember what he said, and I think I know what you're trying to get out there, but essentially, like he said, like I could heal you right now. Is this what you want? He said, but think of essentially how much more glory you could bring God or something like that, healing the afflicted while being afflicted yourself.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Because like you're still struggling, but you continue to have faith in God.
And to heal others with that faith while still being afflicted yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So something along those lines.
That was exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
My words just stopped working.
But like it's something that we lack a lot of the time, and it's an up and down thing. Like there's times in the Bible where the disciples were on fire with their faith and they were casting out demons and they were healing people. But then there was also times where they came down, to the cabin of the ship to talk to Jesus and be like, what are you doing? Why are you sleeping? We're drowning out here. Like we're sinking. Mm-hmm. And he goes, ye of little faith. Like
it's faith and then trust too.
Yeah, faith and trust. But that's like having faith is essentially trusting in God. And like he's like, you have so little faith. And he comes up and he stills the raging seas and calms the wind. There's
a reason that Jesus does everything that he does.
Yeah.
And if he didn't feel like you have to trust him. Mm-hmm. If he didn't feel like he had to like calm the whatever when they were drowning, then he knew the outcome. He wasn't going to let people be drowned.
Yeah.
Including himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or how was it Peter who tried to meet Jesus on the water?
Yeah, Peter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He stepped out in faith and then he started to sink because he started to doubt and lack faith in Christ.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to find that actually because it's like
there's like multiple occasions in the Bible where they they do these things in faith, or they have moments where they're on fire and their faith is accomplishing miracles, literal miracles. And then at other times when they're with Jesus, who's literally the king of miracles, and they're watching him do all these things. And then when it comes time for them to show him their faith, they doubt. And then they lack faith. And then that's when things go wrong.
Yeah, that's like throughout the whole New Testament.
Yeah.
The disciples literally question Jesus and have so little faith every single time.
Yeah.
Or just don't understand.
And that's what I mean. These are people who are actually with Jesus, watching him do these things. And we're having faith nowadays, like 2,000 years later, without having actually seen Jesus do these miracles personally firsthand. Mm-hmm. And so they watched him do all these things and they still lacked faith, and we haven't seen him do all these things, and we still lack faith a lot of the time as well.
Oh yeah, we're 100% guilty.
So it's just like we'll never have perfect faith while we're here.
Mm-hmm.
We strive for it.
Yeah.
And we can strengthen our faith, and God can help strengthen our faith, but we'll never have perfect faith while we're here.
That's 100% true, but it's also sad.
Yeah, it is.
Because
want to.
Like I said, I feel like sometimes I do.
Yeah.
But do I actually?
It might not even be. There might be times, like I said, in the Bible, the disciples were on fire and they were accomplishing many things. And there's going to be seasons in our life where our faith is like really strong and really big faith. And then there's going to be times where it's barely enough faith to the size of a mustard seed.
Yeah.
So like there's going to be times in our life where we have it's like a roller coaster, the way it was for the disciples in the New Testament.
Ooh, I have some devotions on doubt in this Bible actually. Faith to move a mountain, 12:37. Okay, I'm going to read that once I flip to it. Takes forever.
But I think our journey with faith on this side of heaven is going to be an up and down roller coaster.
Faith is definitely a finicky thing.
Mm-hmm. And it's something that we strive to strengthen and grow through our daily disciplines with prayer and with time with God and dedicating time to listen to God. But inevitably, even if your faith is really strong in this life, there's going to be moments where it's not as strong.
Mm-hmm. As believers, we know how important it is to engage deeply with Scripture, and having the right tools can make a huge difference. Mr. Penn's multi-liner pens come in various tip sizes, perfect for making notes in the margins of our Bibles without any bleed-through.
And the highlighters? They are fantastic. Mr. Penn's highlighters have vibrant colors that don't smudge or bleed, making them perfect for highlighting key verses and passages.
If you're looking to enhance your own Bible study experience or just need reliable, high-quality pens and highlighters, Mr. Pen is the way to go. Check them out on shopmrpen.com or go to Amazon where you can find all of their products. I'll read you this devotion. It's called Faith to Move a Mountain, and it goes into Mark 11:22-23. And it says, "And Jesus said to the disciples, 'Have faith in God. I tell you the truth, you can say to this mountain, may you be lifted up and thrown into the sea, and it will happen. But you must really believe it will happen and have no doubt in your heart.'" And the devotion says this. It's like a love letter from God, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It says, "Beloved child, I love when you have complete faith in me and you trust me with all your heart. When you pray, you have my full attention. Even if I do not answer in the way you ask me to, I will always answer with what is best for you. I never want you to lose faith in me because I did not give you what you wanted. When you feel weak, I will remove the mountain in the way of my will for your life. Trust that I know what is best for you because I am the author of your life and I am writing your story right now. Walk closely with me and your faith will remain strong. If you wholeheartedly believe, you will see that I am the God of miracles. Love your Heavenly Father." And the reflection says, "There will be times when your faith will suffer and you will begin to doubt God's word because you asked God for something and it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Remember this truth. God can move any mountain in the way of his will for your life. If he does not remove it, embrace the journey as he takes you to the center of his perfect will." So the one thing that stood out to me most in this devotion, this whole thing, was when it said, God can move any mountain in the way of his will for
Yep.
your life. So sometimes his will looks like having that mountain be firmly planted right in front of us, and we have to climb over it. You know, it's not always something that is in his will to be removed. So that's why it says God can move any mountain in the way of his will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought that was really good and like a really good. I'm glad that they said this because, you know,
Yeah.
God can move any mountain in your life. No, God can move any mountain that is in the way of his will for your life.
Yeah. And the mountains that aren't in the way of his will, he takes us down a different path.
Yeah, he takes us over it. And then when we are too weak, he carries us himself.
Not over it, because if it's leading you down a path that's not in his will, he's not going to move that mountain. So you're not going to get over that mountain, but he's going to lead you down a different path, either around that mountain or a different way.
Yeah, but sometimes he wants us to go through the hardship to get out on the other side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'll bring us, we're going to face storms and trials in life because our faith is tested in this life. Just like many of the disciples and many of the biblical characters, God tested their faith. But I think I said this to you the other day, if God brings you to it, he'll bring you through it.
You said that to me yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the key thing. If God is bringing you through this trial or this test to strengthen your faith or to teach you something, he's going to be faithful to bring you through it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I had a thought about what you're talking about with the whole mountain. I guess kind of like when I say that our faith is going to be lower or smaller or whatever sometimes, I'm not saying that you're necessarily going to be turning your back from God. It's more of just like you're going to be asking more questions, being like, why aren't you doing this, God? Like, why? Like doubting his faithfulness to do what he says that he'll do.
Yeah, you don't turn your back on him. You don't stop believing in him.
No.
But you start to question him more.
Yeah.
Because you're like,
question
why?
him more because you're not seeing what you want to see or what you're asking for. So then you start to ask questions. But I think when your faith is strong, it's full confidence knowing that God can do these things.
Mm-hmm. I think even when people do have strong faith, there is still this sense of like questioning God and questioning his character, because you can have strong faith. Like David had such strong faith, and the Psalms are filled with him questioning God. So I think sometimes asking God these questions is important, but that doesn't mean your faith is small either.
No,
Yeah.
It doesn't, definitely. But he also always, 90% of the time, if not more, ended off those Psalms praising God's name and saying, like, or bringing up things that he did in history, that he was faithful and where he did provide a way for whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So he had faith that the God I'm talking to and the God I'm asking these questions to is the same God who did these mighty things in the past.
Yeah.
And so he can do these mighty things again now.
We kind of had our own situation this week with trying to have faith, like having big faith and trying to be discerning and wise. And it's really easy. Like, we can explain the situation, but basically I was presented with an opportunity to be able to take social media full time. But it wasn't consistent. It was like for a set term, and then there was like kind of the unknown after, but it would have been a great opportunity for me to do what I want to do full time. But we were kind of conflicted because I do have like a stable job outside of social media that brings in like a bi-weekly paycheck, and we know that we'll have that set amount of money coming in. Whereas social media is very like flip-floppy. Like, there's going to be slow months and then months where it's like, you have enough or an abundance. And God has given us the opportunity to have an abundance at this moment in time. So it's like we were kind of talking, and we were talking about me quitting my job and doing social media full-time because, this is the opportunity that I've been presented. And so, I obviously got very excited about this opportunity and this time in my life. And we started praying about it. We started asking God, if this is in your will, like, please make it known, whatever. I kept seeing signs. But the thing with that is, when you're excited for something, it's very easy to see signs that like resonate with what you want to do.
That's what I said to you.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, we decided that I was going to keep my job because
you kind of decided that. I was still praying about it.
Yeah, you were still praying about it. We were going to give it till Sunday, but we prayed about it the one night, and then I had something just like kind of pop into my head, and sometimes that's how God speaks to us too. But it was like, you know what, maybe you should wait a bit before you quit your job.
The big thing for me that I was trying to discern and still trying to discern is whether this is God providing in abundance when we need it, so that we can have that extra money to either carry us through this next little bit or to help us, pay off some financial obligations that we have that would help make our life a little easier, or whether this is him providing the opportunity for consistent income for a set period of time for you to take the leap out in faith to try and do this ministry full time.
Yeah.
So I'm still praying about it. But that's what I'm trying to discern and figure out if his will was to provide an abundance for this time period that we're in right now to help us ease some financial things that would make our life a little easier, or whether it's time for you to take that leap of faith.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of where the discernment and trying to figure out where faith lies and where to have faith and what. And
it is hard. It is hard to discern things because there's so many things that point us in each direction. For sure.
And like our own will sorry to cut you off. Our own will gets in the way a lot of the time too, because especially when it's a decision that comes to something that we want to happen, then it's like, oh yeah, no, this is God saying this, and like look at all these signs that are happening. But like it's something that you want, I
flooded your text messages with like Ali Yost and Ashley Hetherington literally put a podcast episode out the day before we started talking about this, and I listened to it the day after, I think, or like the day of we talked about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what I need to hear. I need to step out in faith and be bold and like trusting God, and he will provide. And I was like so hyped up, and then I send it to you and you're just like, LOL.
Because you're sending me so many sort of things, and I'm just like, now because you're excited about it, you have to be careful that you're not looking for anything that could be considered a sign from God. Like you have to, discernment's a really hard thing, and it's something I'm still trying to figure out, because it's a very hard thing to know God's will against your own will, because you can kind of I don't want to say manifest, but like you can make your own signs to convince yourself that God's trying to make you go away, or maybe it is God's giving you the signs. So it's hard to know what exactly it is.
Like that we know what the smart thing to do would be, like is for me to keep my steady job and then use this extra income as a way to set us further, like, financially. But then there's the fact that I've worked steadily full time doing social media, and then having a job on the side for over a year. I was working 2 jobs at one point and also doing social media. So it's like, when is it going to be that time? Yeah. Maybe, I've only been doing this for a year, so I still have a long way to go.
Yeah. And
But
like some people are doing this for years before it,
mhm.
turns into what they want, but it is hard, and I know it's hard on you because I've seen it, but yeah, it's just one of those things that they're just trying to figure out when.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just been a week of discerning and trying to listen to God's voice and trying to discern what his will is for this particular season of my life. And we're still figuring it out, but for now I'm holding on to my job because like even though I want to step out in faith, I want to step out and be bold and trust in God and that he'll provide. We also have to be smart, especially with like the season we are in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, you were saying that though too, like even when we were like, you're both kind of considering it and you were like excited about it, you were also like, but I'm also scared.
Mm-hmm.
You're like scared to take that leap of faith, and like faith can be scary sometimes. Like being faithful can mean taking a step out of your comfort zone a lot of the times.
Yeah, God can call us into some uncertain and unpredictable situations
Mm-hmm.
for his will. So it's kind of like trying to understand, like we're still trying to understand what he wants us to do. It might take weeks, it might take a couple months to even figure out what he's trying to tell us.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
we have counsel. We've gotten counsel from some people. Some people say, yes, take the leap, do it. Like I did it and I haven't looked back.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people are like, no, I don't think that's smart.
Yeah.
Especially in today's economy when it is really hard to get a job.
Yeah, it is really tough.
Yeah, like I've applied to other personal support worker jobs over the
Mm-hmm.
last few months. Haven't heard a single thing.
Yeah, I mean, same here. I've been applying to some other jobs as well in the meantime because times are tough, and haven't heard anything back. Like some places haven't even looked at my application.
Yeah, it's just
Like
it's
they have
ridiculous.
an updating tracker, and like it says applied, and there's like 6 other steps after it, and it hasn't even gotten past applied.
Can we just like go on a segue and talk about this for a second? Because like it is frustrating when jobs post on like Indeed or job posting sites
Mm-hmm.
and they're like urgently hiring. And then you send in your resume that is more than qualified for the role.
Yeah.
And they're just like, you don't hear back at all.
And the thing just sits on there with the position for like who knows how long.
Yeah. And then you look like on Indeed particularly,
Yeah.
there's like this thing where after you applied, you can see how many people applied.
Mm-hmm.
I applied to one job and there was like 400 to 500 applicants for this
Mm-hmm.
one position. And I was like, okay, yep.
Yeah. Times are
it's rough
times
out
are
there.
tough. Like it's insane. Like back in the day, I
Back
sound
in the
so
you old fart.
I know, honestly. I'm not even that old, but I am. But like back when I was in high school, like trying to get a job, like I got pretty much every job I applied to in high school. I basically walked in, got an interview, and got hired. Like
Yeah.
it was that easy. Like the economy was so much better back then.
Mm-hmm.
And like never perfect, but like obviously it was a lot better back then. Everything's a lot more affordable. There was more jobs, and like I was able to get a job easily.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are able to apply, like even if you had to apply to like 2 places, or like it would be like maybe 2 or 3, and at least one of those places would get back to you. But like I've applied to like close to 10 places now, and like not
It's
a single
impossible.
one.
There's literally no jobs for like the jobs I had in high school and even before that.
Yeah,
They don't exist anymore. Like they're not hiring.
I know.
Like, okay, so when I was in high school, I worked, my first job ever was actually I was 12 or 13 and I lived in like the country. It was like Boston, Ontario. If any of you know, it's like a little town outside of Mount Pleasant and in between like Waterford. So I worked at the Boston Common and it was like this little restaurant. It was very good. We used to go there every Friday for like all you can eat pickerel. It was amazing. But my stepdad got me a job there and I was like a busser, dishwasher person.
Clearing tables.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the most clumsy person ever. So imagine Susie, little awkward skinny Susie, holding like this tray of wine glasses and then like them all falling and smashing on the floor. So they didn't fire me personally. They actually told my dad I was fired. Like my stepdad, he took away my phone. I was like, this is not my fault. But yeah, they didn't even have the decency to tell me that I was fired.
Just to interject
Just
with
like
you there.
go tattletale to my dad.
Yeah, I just wanted to interject there real quick because I also was a busser at the keg for, well, I was a busser for about a year and a half before I moved up in the company or whatever. But there was this one guy who I worked with who was hired, and he was also a busser, but he was like the worst busser, and they never fired him. Like, we were like, how is he not fired yet? Like, he once took an entire tray of 24 or something like that wine glasses, dropped it on the ground, and every single one of them shattered. He knocked over a cart once that had like 30 plates or 40 plates on it. Majority of them broke and shattered on the floor.
Ooh.
And like, he was always breaking things, and they never fired him. I was like, how the heck are you not fired?
Was he past probation?
Yeah.
Wow.
But like, I think it was even during his probationary period as well, and they just didn't fire him. Like,
I would be shaking in my boots if I were
everyone
him.
was like, but he's like, he just did not seem to care.
Did he have ins with the...
No.
Oh, okay.
So I have no idea how, like, that's why we were like so confused. Like, how are you not fired? You're terrible at the job. He was a nice guy, but like, he was just bad at the job and very clumsy. But anyways, yeah, so that was my little interjection just related to your story. So.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to tell them other places I've worked.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So then I was 14 and I worked at Subway. I was a sandwich artist. I was so proud of that title back in the day. I was like, I'm an artist of sandwiches. And I used to make the best subs, but I'm so thankful for this job because I'm such a picky eater. And the only sub I would ever get would be like a pizza sub. And it was a maybe. If I felt like putting lettuce on it, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to be adventurous today. I'm going to put some lettuce on it. But when you work every day and you keep eating the same like 6-inch sub every day for your break because you got a free 6-inch every time you worked, you get bored. So then you start seeing what other people put on their subs, and then you start experimenting.
There you go.
Then I learned that I liked green pepper and hot banana peppers. That's where the love came in. Actually, I started with jalapenos, and then I moved down to hot
You're
peppers.
still very picky, so.
That's not the point of the story.
Still very picky.
I'm less picky because of this job.
So picky.
Okay, they get it. They get it. But okay, so then I worked there, and then my next job after that was Home Depot, and I was cashier. Those floors are hard on your feet. I'm just gonna say that. So standing all day, it's hard. Where else did I work? I worked at a daycare for quite a while, like on and off, doing before and after school. That was after school, after I finished college. And then I worked as like a housekeeper at hotels. That was a dirty job. I won't even get into that. And then I've had a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
I've worked as a PSW in like 3 different homes.
Yeah.
And as an admin assistant. And then I think that's it. I've got too many to count now.
Home Sense for like a week.
I worked at Baskin Robbins for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then I quit because the guy was so mean.
Because you kept burning your fingers on the waffle cones.
Yeah, the waffle cones. You have to turn them and make them into cones yourself. And he'd like make me take the waffle cone stuff, like whatever, off the burner. And he'd make me burn my fingers trying to do it. And he'd be like, do it faster. I'm like, okay. I'm
surprised that a company like Baskin Robbins, they just don't have them shipped in, like already made.
Well, back in that day, they didn't. Yeah. They might now.
Maybe, I don't know.
But like, I was like, I'm never going back here.
Yeah.
Never.
I haven't worked as many jobs as you. Like, I stayed at my jobs for quite a while. Like, I think Home Hardware, I worked there for 2 years, maybe 3. And then from there, I went to the Keg. I worked there for 4 years. And then I worked at a factory for a year. That one was or just under a year, because that one was like the worst job I've ever had, and I hated my entire life.
Literally black everywhere.
I was covered in so much chemical residue or dust and metal residue that I had to go have a shower, and it would just be black running off of my body because of all the dust and stuff.
Yeah, your cheeks would literally be stained black.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that was, and I hated that job so much. It was the worst. I hated my life during that period of time. But from there, I quit and did music for the shortest little period of time ever. It was like 2 months. And then I went and got a job at Best Buy. Mm-hmm. And I worked at Best Buy for a year and a bit before I left and did another role before I got into real estate. Yeah. Kind of like an admin role, and then I got into real estate, and then I've been doing that ever since.
Your admin role was like tied into real estate.
I was an admin in a real estate office, but yeah. So I did that I've been doing that for like 4 years now, I guess. Total, maybe 3.5, 4 years.
I'd say 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5, I think.
But yeah,
we
worked a lot of jobs.
What?
We've worked a lot of jobs.
Yeah, I haven't worked as many as you. Like I said, I worked at mine for long periods of time, and then other than one of them or 2 of them. But yeah, and then now I'm Yeah.
Now you're here.
Now I'm here. And yeah, I got my first job at 14, I think, as well.
Yeah.
It was like the minimum hiring, or like the minimum age they could hire or something like that. So
I literally said my first job was at the Boston Common, but my I don't know if you all can hear that, but my stomach just
made the
literally had
loud. I'm
had an
across the
earthquake.
room from her, and I could hear it loud as day.
We need to eat food.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll try to wrap this up soon before I die. Anyway, so yeah, I said my first job was at the Boston Common, but my actual first job, in quotation marks, was picking raspberries. My brother's dad, who was my stepdad at the time, the one I mentioned earlier, he would make me go pick raspberries in the summer at like, I'd have to get up at 5 a.m. to go to this farm to pick raspberries and fill the baskets. Guess how much money I made after like an 8 to 9 work day? 8 to 9 hour work day.
How much?
$5. $5.
That sounds like child labor to me.
It for sure was, because they paid you based on the weight of the raspberries you picked.
That's insane.
And then I had to walk home. There's like the street was straight. There was no trees. Heat, like the middle of summer, blazing down on the tar. By the time I got home, I thought it was like daydreaming like a freaking lake in the desert. Like I was so tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I had another job actually while I worked at the keg. I went to because I was working as a host at the time in the evenings, or server. A server? I can't remember. Either way, I was working in the evenings at the keg, but I wanted more hours because I wanted to make more money, and they couldn't give them to me at the time because they had hired more people, and I was like, well, that's frustrating because I could have used the extra hours. So then I went to get another job at this new diner that opened up just recently, like literally maybe a week before or whatever, and I got hired as a server there. And when I was during the interview process, I was like, yeah, I'm only looking for day shifts because I work in the evenings at the keg, and I prioritize that because I make better money like in tips there.
You told them that you prioritize the keg more?
No, I basically told them I work in the keg in the evenings, and they're strictly evenings.
Okay.
So I was like, but in reality, I made way better money at the keg than anywhere else. So yeah. I was like, I only work evenings at the keg because that's only when they're open. So I have a job in the evening, so I'm looking for a day job. And so they're like, yeah, no, we already have somebody for like the evenings anyway, so we just need someone for the days. And there's like a diner type restaurant. So I think I did 3 or 4 training shifts before I had talked to the coworker who was training me, basically saying like, why is she scheduling me for evening shifts when I was specifically hired for day shifts?
That sucks.
And also told her in the interview process I can only work day shifts. And then she must have went and tattled to the boss, because when I went for the breakfast with my family that Saturday, she came up to my table with my parents in front of me like, when you're done, come see me in my office.
You weren't there working? You were
No,
out
I was there
for
eating, and she... So unprofessional.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would have quit right after that.
So I was pretty mad at that point. I was like, really? In front of my parents while we're having breakfast, and like I haven't even paid or eaten yet?
And you're in trouble?
Yeah, like I'm in the middle of eating with my family, and she's like, come see me when you're in my office when you're done. And I was like,
quit.
Okay.
Immediately.
I did actually that day.
Oh, good.
I went into the office and quit.
Did your mom like say like that was really unprofessional?
Yes. She's like, she should have at least waited until the end of the meal or something like that.
She
like,
shouldn't have even done it at all.
No.
And when you're outside of work and
I
you're
know.
like having a good time with your family at the restaurant. Oh, my blood is boiling.
It ticked me off.
The audacity.
The audacity. I know. So like I already knew that they were doing a bunch of things wrong with their whole process because of working at a fine dining, like not fine dining, but like a higher class restaurant than a diner. And like she's like, make sure you go back and check if they want more coffee every 10 minutes. Like
they told me that at the Boston Common too.
Yeah. So like I was going back, and they're like evidently annoyed, and I'm like, nobody wants to be bothered that much. I was like, they tell us to check in when the glass looks empty, like when they're like maybe a quarter of the way to the bottom of their glass, like then go and see if they would like another drink. But like she was like, go back and check to top them up or whatever. And like people were getting annoyed, and I could see it because they're having conversations, and then I'm coming back every like 5-10 minutes being like, hey, do you want some more coffee? Like, and I had to do it because she was telling me to do it. So anyway, they were doing a lot of things wrong, which led to the fact that they didn't stay in business very long as well.
Oh, that makes sense.
They were in business for maybe 4-6 months at maximum, and then they closed down.
Wow.
So good thing I got out anyway. But yeah, so she was like, come see me in my office. And I was like, Okay. So then I went back to the office and she was like basically like angry with me. And I'm like, first of all, be professional. Like, you don't get angry with me as my, like, the owner of the company, like the boss.
Did you tell her that?
No.
Well, then why are you telling me that? I want to know what you said to her.
I got mad back because she was getting mad at me.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to know what you said. Give me the tea.
She was like frustrated with me and being like, first of all, like, I don't appreciate you going to your coworkers and talking about the scheduling or whatever. If you have an issue with the scheduling, come see me. She's like, I specifically told you when you were hired that you would be working a mixture of evenings and days because we have somebody for the day shift. And I was like, no. I was like, you told me, and I was very explicit with you that I can only work days because I have a job in the evening. Mm-hmm. And I've worked there for longer than here, so I can only do the days here. And you told me that's what you were looking for, and that's perfectly fine. And she was like, well, I need you to make a decision whether you can do this or not, like if you can work evenings or not. And
the answer is no.
Yeah. She's like, I need you to make a decision. You can get back to me by the end of the day. I was like, I don't need to get back to you by the end of the day. I can't do evenings. See ya.
Wow.
And I quit. I was like, I just literally was like,
good thing you did.
Yeah. I literally was like, yeah, I can't. I was like, yeah, I don't need to think about it. I can't do evenings, so it doesn't look like this is going to work out. And then I walked out, got my discount for my breakfast, and left.
Wow. I love that story.
Yeah.
That sucks for you, but like also that's a good story.
Yeah. So that was like 3 training shifts. It was like maybe like a week and a half of working there. And then, that was the most unprofessional work experience I've ever had of like a boss.
I've had many, but I'm not going to get into that. Anyway, we should probably circle back to like what the podcast episode is about. Cause that
very true. We got very off topic.
Very off topic. And that lasted a lot longer than I thought it would.
It sure did. Yeah. I
think it was like 20 minutes.
Yeah. 10, 15 minutes. Sorry, everyone who's listening. You're probably bored at this point.
They probably turned it off.
Yeah. Probably shut it off at this point.
Switched podcasts.
Yeah. We just had a random life chat and now they're like, nah.
If you made it this far, tell us what your first job ever was.
True. Yes.
Yeah. And then we'll know that you're a real one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we were talking about like having such little faith, having doubt, having faith as small as a mustard seed, and how that's such a difficult thing to do. Mm-hmm. Like even the disciples couldn't
even their
muster up that much faith.
Yeah, so they couldn't muster up that much faith at times.
They were with Jesus. They saw everything firsthand.
That's what I was saying. They literally watched this man walk on water. They watched him heal like people who had leprosy.
Feed 5,000.
They watched him revive heal a withered hand. Like you don't just undeform a hand.
Resurrect the
dead. Feed 5,000 people with like whatever, like a meager amount of fish and bread. Mm-hmm. So like they watched all this, they saw all this, and yet they still at times doubted.
Yep. So if they're doubting, how much more are we to doubt when we can't even see it? Like we read about it, but we aren't seeing it take place in action. Yeah.
So it's like faith can be all that much more harder, but I think that's what he said to them as well. Like you have faith because you've seen or something like that, but blessed is he who has faith and hasn't seen or something like that.
Yeah. I did a reel the other day that said, believe before you receive, basically. Mm-hmm. And like the world says seeing is believing, but God says believe before you see what I can do.
Yeah.
Because when you have that faith, you will see,
Yeah.
So like if we have faith that's very small, how do we build upon that to make it bigger? And like have faith even as small as a mustard seed. Like what would you do to build upon your faith and to make it stronger?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say that I've got it all figured out. I got mustard seed faith, and I don't. I struggle, and my faith, wavers a lot of the time as well. Not in the fact that like I'm like unsure of whether I'm a Christian or whether I'm saved or whether I believe in Jesus and God anymore. Just in the fact that like I've prayed for things for years and have not seen what I'd hope to see. Mm-hmm. I've prayed for things and gotten what I thought was signs that were like, this is God answering my prayer. I'm almost there, whatever. And it doesn't come to fruition. So like, there's been a lot of times where I do have doubt and I do have questions. But something that I'm trying to work on personally that I know does help grow your faith by people who do it. And it's just dedicating and disciplining yourself in your your time in the Word and in prayer. Those are the two biggest things. Like if you're in constant, intimate communication with God, inevitably you're going to hear his voice more often. Inevitably you're going to feel his presence more often, and you're going to see him work because you have that strong connection with him. But if your communication is lacking with God, so is your relationship with God.
Yeah.
Because how can you build a relationship with someone that you're not talking to?
Exactly. And one thing that you did this morning when you were getting Arwen's food ready and making coffee, you put on this the worship song, which you haven't done in a long time, but you put on this worship song and it was just like flooding the house with this worship. And it was so good. Like I'm getting ready, like I just had a shower, washed my hair, I was getting kind of ready for the day, and I could hear it from upstairs, and it just like made the day feel so much lighter. When I woke up feeling like I was drugged because I was so tired.
I know, I feel that as well. Like it's just uplifts the spirit and it starts your day off on the right foot.
Your heart posture is better than if you were just
starting your day
to.
off with a heart posture of worship is the best way to start the day.
Yeah. And like getting into God's word too. Like
Absolutely.
I find that when I prioritize spending time with God first, even if it's just like 5 minutes, I feel so much better than if I just like didn't and like played the switch right away or something, like did what I wanted to do. I find that I'm more like I'm more miserable. I'm miserable to begin with, but more miserable if I don't. I'm not saying I'm miserable all the time. That was a joke, by the way, but I can be quite like miserable sometimes.
Yeah.
Like right now I'm getting kind of hangry. My stomach is not having a good time.
Well, we're close to like lunch now and we haven't even eaten anything yet today, but we've had coffee. That's it.
I've had like half a cup, but
I've had a full.
You should tell them about the coffee you bought, like what brand it is and stuff, because like it's really good and it's organic.
Yeah, it's delicious. I actually hadn't tried it before. Some of you guys, I mean, Canadians, I don't know if it's elsewhere. If you guys are elsewhere and you have this coffee, let me know because I'm interested to know. It's a Canadian roasted coffee. So I'd be interested to know if like it's also available in the States and internationally. Probably not internationally, but maybe the States. So we was at the grocery store looking for coffee, and most often we get like the President's Choice brand, great Canadian, just affordable and decent tasting, not like garbage tasting coffee, but it's Balzac's, BALZACS, and it's organic and it's the Farmer's Blend, I think is what it's called.
Whatever it is, it's delicious.
It is. It's really good. It's got a nice like it's a medium roast and it's got like a nice mild flavor, but like good caffeine punch, good coffee taste. Like
I can't even imagine not liking coffee anymore.
Yeah, you used to not like coffee, and I'd be like, man, what the heck?
Yeah, because you used to say that you wished your wife like loved coffee.
Yeah, because I liked being able to make it, like, because when you didn't like coffee and no one else is home on the days that we're off or whatever, I have to get up and make like a single pour over, and it's more frustrating and more time consuming to make a pour over or a French press than just to make a pot of coffee.
Yeah.
And to like be able to enjoy that coffee together in the morning. It's just like it's like a bonding thing.
Is it?
But yeah, you used to not like coffee for like a majority of our relationship. And then I think it's only been within the last like year, especially maybe like even 6 months that you've been.
It hasn't even been a year.
Yeah. It's been like 6 months that you've been on the coffee kick. So
yeah.
But I've basically loved coffee since my grandma started giving me like half a cup of coffee at church, after church on Sundays, sneaking it to me.
How old were you?
I was like 12 when she started doing that, or 13.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I wish she was around so I could ask her that.
Yeah.
Nate's grandma was a force to be reckoned with.
She was. She was also so sweet and so funny and kind.
I only knew her, like, she struggled with Alzheimer's, so I only knew her when she was in the midst of that battle. I didn't see her the way you saw her before, but I loved her so much. Like, we used to banter all the time.
She was funny. She was so funny. She had such a great sense of humor, and she was like, she's always either like on Sundays when we go there for lunch after church, and she'd like sneak me a $20 bill, and she'd so I could go and buy like, something. And so like she would always do that. Every Sunday she would sneak me a $20 bill. She'll like slide it across the counter like they do in the movies and like and just put it or just come in when I was like in the back room playing video games. She'd come in and just shove a $20 bill in my pocket so you don't tell your parents.
I love that.
Yeah. And then
so sweet.
I know, she was so sweet. And then every Sunday after church when they served tea and coffee and snacks and stuff like that, she would always come up or she would always be serving in the kitchen. And I would go up and then she would pour me like half a cup and say, "Don't tell your parents." and then I would have coffee. So that was my introduction to coffee, and ever since like 12 or 13, I've loved it. So yeah.
Anyway, so now I'm hooked.
So now you're hooked, and life is good. So.
I like literally couldn't drink coffee for the longest time, not because I didn't like the taste, but because it made me feel so sick. Like I would get lightheaded, I would get nauseous, and then I have to lay down the rest of the day, which is so weird.
Yeah.
Apparently it has something to do with like blood types, and blood type O can't have like caffeine a lot.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've like slowly worked my way up to like 1 cup a day.
It still takes you like the entire day to drink it. So
yesterday I had like, actually the day before when I was off, I worked yesterday. I worked the day before. I had like 3 cups of coffee that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Most of the time, like I'll pour a cup at like 8:30 in the morning or whatever for you, and it'll basically be 3/4 of the way full or halfway full at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and you will have heated it up 2 or 3 times since.
Yeah, because I'm busy.
Yeah.
I don't have time to sit there and drink it.
But anyway, you're still not a true coffee drinker yet. You always have to have the flavored creamers.
Yes.
And
no, it makes it taste so much better. So much sweeter.
Yeah, I know.
Less bitter.
But anyways. So yeah, I forget how we got. Oh, the coffee blend. Yeah, so it's Balzac's.
You already said
organic farmer's blend.
You already said that.
I'm reiterating it. And if you guys have it in the States or internationally, let us know, because I'm very interested to know, because I just found it here. Like I've known about it for a while. It's a little on the pricier side, so that's why I haven't really splurged for it. But it was on sale, so I bought a container, and it's delicious.
And then your dad went and bought another one.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. So we're good for a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you guys struggle with your own faith and having like, you don't have that radical big faith, you struggle and you have doubts, like that is such a normal thing in Christianity. And the disciples also felt the same way, and they were in the midst of like the action.
Yeah.
So if you are having doubts, like don't be too hard on yourself, but also try to get yourself out of that state. Like
for sure.
Worship, spend time with God, talk to God in prayer, like go on prayer walks, do something that makes you appreciate God more and makes you see God more.
Yeah. And it's important to have a daily discipline of doing at least one thing a day to spend time with God, whether that be even if it's just spending 10 minutes or 5 minutes in prayer, or reading a devotional, spending 5 minutes in the Word, like whatever it is, do at least one thing per day to help grow your faith.
Yeah.
And like Susie said, don't feel like you're a bad Christian. Like I've fallen into that trap and stuff sometimes where I don't feel the same faith I see other people. Like they're like on fire for God, and they're like, yeah, I feel God telling me these things, or I feel he's taught me this, and he spoke to me, and like I really feel him moving in my life in this way. And meanwhile, I haven't felt that sometimes. Mm-hmm. And most of the time I really honestly don't. And I don't like, so I want to say like that doesn't make you a bad Christian, or that you have less faith than someone else, or that they're any more special in God's eyes than you.
Yeah, God doesn't play favorites.
No. And that's what I've had to battle with sometimes as well in my life. Just those periods where I am weaker in my faith, and just like thinking that, oh, I'm not even that great of a believer. Like I'm doubting right now, or I'm going through a period where I'm not spending much time in the Word, and I'm not praying as much as I want to be. Like it's normal to have ebbs and flows, mountains and valleys in your faith and in your Christian walk. The important thing to do is just to stay committed, stay faithful, and pray, and do, like I said, even when you don't feel like it, commit one action a day to growing your faith with God.
Absolutely. I believe everything you just said.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I have faith in what you just said.
So I think that about wraps it up for today's podcast. I pray that some of our ramblings have been a blessing to you guys and will help you in your faith walk today. And with whatever you're going through and struggling with, I pray that this has been useful and helpful to you and a tool to help you in your faith walk as well. We all need it. So you're not alone if your faith is lacking. And if your faith is strong and you got grapefruit size faith, then good for you. That's amazing.
Send some our way.
Exactly, right? So, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and listening. We really appreciate you guys who do regularly listen to our podcast and us rambling and just chatting about faith and life and jobs and
just like
coffee,
just talking. And that's one thing that I love about listening to other people's podcasts is just hearing like the conversation and where that conversation takes them. It kind of feels like you're in the room with them. You just can't interject because you can't. But like, I hope you guys enjoy that about our podcast as well. It's been such a nice blessing to have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Because like me talking by myself, I feel like it was just so manufactured and like ingenuine almost.
Yeah.
Because like I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
But with you, it's like a back and forth natural conversation and we can like feed each other and like joke around and
definitely.
And
anyway,
I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, it's been good.
Yeah. So, thank you guys for like coming and joining us on the podcast and like just listening and just being here. We've almost hit 10,000 downloads already, and that's just crazy to me. So like we're just into season 2 and we've only done like maybe 20 episodes maybe, and we have 10,000 downloads, and that's just like insane.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Like you guys are so amazing and we're so thankful for you.
And if this has been a podcast that has resonated with you, something that we've talked about or said, and someone who might be experiencing or going through the same thing, we would, appreciate if you share it with them, because maybe God can use something that we've said and talked about today in our own faith walks that might be helpful or useful to them as well. So be sure to share it around if you know someone who, might be needing to hear what we've said today.
Exactly. And if this podcast has blessed you in any way and you are financially able, there is a way that you can support the podcast. It's in the link. So it says support the show. You just click on that and it will take you to a donation page. But honestly, every donation is appreciated because times are tough out there.
And even if you can't donate and you're just tuning in regularly, we appreciate you just the same. So thank you so much.
Exactly. And, even if you donate like $1, if we had $1 for every person that listened to this episode and like past episodes,
$10,000.
We'd have $10,000.
Yeah.
But like we get like quite a bit of money per episode, which would be amazing to help us like continue to keep doing this and like for us to do ministry full time.
Yeah.
But
because it is time consuming for us, and we're both obviously still having to work and stuff. So it is helpful, but even if you can't,
that's
honestly,
totally okay.
There's no qualms whatsoever. We really just appreciate you taking the time to listen and hopefully help grow you in your own faith and help you with whatever things you're going through as well.
Yep. Jesus didn't charge for people to listen to their sermons.
Absolutely not. So. It's only if you're able to and you feel like it, then we do truly appreciate it.
Exactly. God bless you all.
We love you all. You messed it up.
Oh.
Yeah.
What was it? What is it?
Isn't it God loves you all?
Oh, yeah. God loves you all.
We love you all.
And until next time. If you haven't had enough of the Lay It Down podcast, you can follow at Susannah.Friesen on Instagram or at Susannah Friesen on TikTok for more daily godly encouragement. If you like the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review because it really, really helps us out and reach more people. God bless and see you next time.